Damn. Yo, what's good, guys? Coming at you with another masterclass. Come on. Right, the last one, man's journey to self-mastery, phenomenal. Right, so I had to run it back with the software, this little presentation software, man, because we're gonna be talking about how to achieve alignment within your physical training, right? Within the concepts of 2.0, the principles that I preach, aligning yourself across the mental, the physical, the spiritual, mind, body, soul, thoughts, actions, and belief. And without further ado, let's get straight into it. Come on. So, within your physical training, man, of course, it'd be a disservice to not address the physical, right? Because I mean, it's physical training for a reason. But the thing is, this is only scratching the surface of what training truly is, because most people operate from a surface level understanding of what training truly is representative of relative to alignment across the three aspects of your being, right? Your mind, your body, and your soul. And you see, the physical is simply the bodily outcomes that we are seeking to obtain by means of our physical training. Aesthetic proportional physique within growing muscle, moving heavy loads via, strength, mobility, moving freely through any range of motion, zero pain, zero restriction, and then endurance, just pushing through persistent stress over a prolonged period of time. This reminds me of the iceberg. We've all seen those videos of like the iceberg theory where it's like, oh, this is this, and then at the bottom here is just like the deepest lore you could possibly imagine within any whatever topic, right? It's all down here, but within your training, this is simply the physical, right? These are the outcomes that we are trying to obtain. It's up here, but people don't realize that when it comes to the mind and the soul, you know, it's all down here, right? It's invisible to a surface level understanding, and that's why most people never truly reach and achieve the potential that it is they are striving to fulfill, as a result of only fixating on what is visible within the surface and neglecting what is here under, that actually makes the bulk of training within the gym or within any physical endeavor. So the common goal within physical training that we are all striving for is simply physical prowess, right? Within 2.0, I like to conceptualize it as physical prowess, mental freedom, and spiritual attunement. And so within physical training, of course, we are trying to achieve physical prowess, because no matter what your goals are, that is the thing, right? We all want to obtain a degree of physical prowess that we can leverage and carry over into our everyday lives. Because just being in, amazing shape, being strong, being mobile, being, having that endurance, it doesn't mean anything if we can't take that and apply it to any aspect of our life. The success we achieve within fitness or just any physical endeavor, we need to be able to replicate that within any aspect of our being, whether it be the mental and the spiritual alongside the physical. And so physical prowess only comes as a byproduct of applying your mind and soul alongside the body within your training in a manner that guarantees results effortlessly. Because the thing is, you can prioritize the muscle growth, you can prioritize the PRs, you can chase that, you can chase those things within your training, but what you are doing is neglecting that these are side effects, right? These are essentially bonuses to the spiritual and mental training that is done, and it is achieved through intense exercise. And, as I mentioned, physical prowess is 1/3 of the picture towards complete alignment within 2.0, achieving that best version of you. Because mental freedom via mindset, spiritual attunement via spirituality, just tapping into who you are fundamentally, these are non-negotiable to authentically carve out the masterpiece that is your 2.0, your highest self. And within physical training, man, leveraging these two things in pursuit of physical prowess aligns you to that outcome in the way you see fit, plus a body that is reflective of your aligned inner being. Because what is external must first happen internally, right? Anything that exists externally must first be created internally. And it's the same thing with your body, right? It has to be reflective of your aligned inner being. So diving into the mindset within training, man, peep the picture, right? The brain lifting the weights, because the truth of the matter is within the gym. And of course, I remember watching a Mike Mentor video not too long ago. And so this quote, this idea was, loosely inspired by something he says. Not exactly what he said, but it was inspired by him. So gotta give credit where credit's due. But the greatest resistance within the gym isn't the weights we move. Rather, it is the mind that serves as the resistance by which we are able to create tension and stimulus within our muscles. Because within any physical endeavor, in order to achieve excellence by means of aesthetic, strength, mobility, endurance, whatever it is you're trying to achieve out of your training, it all comes down to reframing the intention to get into the best physical shape of your life, as first getting into the best mental shape of your life via taking your mind somewhere it hasn't gone to before within your training. So it's not about just growing muscles, it's about growing your mind. Your mind is essentially the most important muscle that needs to be grown, whether we realize it or not. And so to train your body intensely is to train the mind just as intense, if not more. And naturally, the further you push the limits of your mind, the further you push the limits on what is physically possible within your fitness and your health. And you see, believing your muscles and overall body, as I mentioned earlier, are purely responsible for moving heavy loads or enduring through extended physical discomfort it's simply elementary level thinking, right? It's as I mentioned up here within the iceberg, it's surface level. We're scratching the surface when we're just purely operating from a physical lens, and thus looking at training from that physical lens of like, oh, I'm just moving weight and growing muscle. No, right? That's elementary level thinking, because your mind dictates the weight and the length by which you can push your body 10 times out of 10. No debate, non-negotiable. Because look, think about it like this. You could be fully recovered, zero soreness, fresh as ever to hit a lift. You could have taken like a deload. You could have not trained within a couple of days. So you are feeling absolutely fresh. But if you aren't in that mental state of giving it your absolute all, you will make zero progress despite how physically ready you might have been to move some weight or endure through bodily stress, right? It's why you could be feeling physically ready, but if you're feeling anxious or insecure or lazy or whatever it might be mentally, then you're not even gonna hit the gym despite how physically capable you might be to go and knock out a lift within that day. And bro, we all know, I'm sure we've all been there, right? Those lifts where we're lifting and we're just on our phones, right? You even might see this within other people if you don't necessarily resonate with this within your own training. But personally, for me, the times where I'm using my phone excessively within the gym, right? Well, obviously, I personally don't like to scroll or do any of that BS while I'm lifting, right? But it's like if I'm trying to pick songs or like tracking my lifts, and I find that I'm spending too much time on my phone and I'm not actively engaged within the present moment, it's like the lift just it goes to shit, right? It's not as good as if I was just fully locked in, present in the moment, right? And this right here is misalignment. When you're essentially multitasking, you're dividing your energy, your focus, your intention within that lift across your phone and the weights, right? You have to single it out, you have to narrow it down to just being so enthralled within the process of working out that it just occupies your mind wholeheartedly, and that it then allows you to just direct as much of your mental focus as possible within pushing your body to its limits. And so the perfect example within the mental aspect of training, man, the mind muscle connection. The mind muscle connection, man. As much as people may attempt to debunk this idea within physical training, it is evident that there exists a connection between the mind and body on a metaphysical level. When you understand alignment and its ability to facilitate the achievement of authentic success in that highest version of you, your 2.0. And so if it matters metaphysically, obviously it's going to be of relevance within something as simple as a physical endeavor within your training, right? And when it comes to your training, the body instinctively follows the mind, right? Because as I mentioned earlier, if you train with a lack of focus and you're just going through the motions where, you might be doing like bicep curls and you're just like, you're not even really squeezing and contracting. You're not feeling the muscle, right? You're just moving the way like, I'm sure we've had those workouts like that. And when you do that, your body will essentially reflect that lack of focus via a lack of sufficient stimulus to create the growth adaptations and thus reinforcing a subpar level of fitness, whether it be within your physique, your strength level, your mobility, your endurance, whatever it might be. And so essentially what needs to be done, you have to prime yourself to push through mental discomfort. And in doing that, it makes the physical stimulation that much more conducive with growth versus just merely activating the muscle without sufficient stress, hence going through the motions. Because as soon as you stop an exercise, when you stop the set, the rep, as soon as it gets uncomfortable, man, not only are you leaving physical gains on the table, you're leaving mental gains because your mind is a muscle as well. Your mind needs to be able to adapt itself to pushing through stress just as much as your muscles do in order for them to grow. And dude, Arnold Schwarzenegger, man. Arnold Schwarzenegger, a huge advocate for mind-muscle connection within his own style of training. He emphasized the importance of placing conscious control on the muscles that you want to activate within any movement, execution of any movement that you are doing, and thus creating the necessary tension within that muscle to force bodily growth. And this is a quote that I managed to find where Arnold literally says, your mind has to be the body's guide. Thinking about every part of the movement, every contraction, every squeeze. If your mind is involved in your workout, there's no way you can lose. And that, to me right there, that is absolutely beautiful in highlighting the importance of mindset and just applying your mind within your physical training. And obviously the results speak for themselves through what Arnold was able to achieve within, bodybuilding, regardless of the steroid use, right? Phenomenal physique, right? Amazing level of impact within fitness and bodybuilding as a whole, right? Truly an amazing legacy. And it reinforces the power of the mind is not to be taken lightly within your physical training. And so we get into the spirituality of training now that we understand how important the mind is. And obviously this ties extremely, it's all aligned, right? It's all connected between one another when it comes to mind, body, and soul, because within the spiritual aspect of your training, the desire to train with such a high level of intensity and heart to stimulate those mental and physical gains, to push through that mental and physical discomfort, can only come from training in a way that represents you wholeheartedly, what you truly want out of the gym and your overall fitness. Biggest reason where people go wrong when it comes to the spirituality of their training, how they train, the foundation that they choose to train from. When you put yourself in a box within how you train by only doing or following certain exercises, rep ranges, set amounts, rest times, etc., because you heard an expert say that was the way to do it for the best possible results, bro, you got to do it like this, you got to train 8 days a week. You got to rest 3 minutes in between your sets, non-negotiable. You have to do 2 sets for every body part, whatever it might be, whatever BS advice that you might have heard. The thing is, it might work, but is it actually fulfilling the internal part of your being that wants to put everything you've got within your training, emptying the clip in pursuit of the shape you are striving to achieve in a way that feels 100% natural to who you are? Right? This is why I cannot comprehend why people push the idea of training to minimize fatigue. Right? We are not in the gym to minimize fatigue. A projection of the soul is supposed to be mentally and physically taxing. It is supposed to be extremely fatiguing when you look at it from a training perspective. But this is the best place to operate from within every facet of life, not even just within, your physical training. That is how you grow. You grow through taxing yourself mentally and physically through a projection of your soul. And it's why here, the best science-based exercise is this is misalignment at its finest. Because the best, not every exercise that the science dictates is the quote unquote best for growing a muscle is going to work for you, right? If you see a certain exercise and these scientists are saying, bro, you have to do this. This is the best possible exercise to grow the upper portion of your chest. And let's say you go and hit it and it just feels absolutely terrible. Are you going to force yourself to continue doing that exercise because the science said it's the best thing to do? I wouldn't, because it's not aligned with with my own personal philosophy within that exercise, right? It doesn't align with who I am fundamentally in terms of when I'm actually doing the movement itself. So why would I do it? And that's why you need to align your training in a fashion that allows you to project your soul within every session, every exercise, every set, every single rep, because you know that level of intensity and heart you put into each of those will guarantee results and progress in the way you see fit relative to your personal fitness goals. Because you'll reach a point when you are operating from the spiritual foundation within your training, man, you will walk out of every session with conviction, right? Conviction is one of the highest frequency states of being that you can possibly get into, a state of knowing, right? When you have conviction in the progress that you are making, the level of intensity and heart that you are driving within every session, every exercise, every set, every rep, you'll never desperately wonder if you checked off all the boxes prescribed by the science and other people's fitness advice, because you know what you are doing works for you, and that's all that matters, right? That is all that matters within your training, man. And so I'm gonna get into the spiritual example here, habitual expressions. Right, this is an interesting one. I literally just randomly thought of this, and I was like, bro, this actually makes so much sense relative to the spirituality of training. And so, as obscure as it sounds, the habitual expressions you make whilst training intensely are a representation of your individual way of expressing and projecting your soul and heart within that training. Because it's funny, we often hear people get criticized for making noises or making certain faces as they approach failure within a given set, but that is simply their means of projecting their inner being within the style of training that suits them fundamentally. All right, so here, this is literally a picture of me doing, some front raises, and I'm just making, some goofy ass face, right? I'm not gonna lie. It looks pretty goofy, but this is genuinely just me pushing through mental and physical discomfort, just trying to squeeze out every last bit of tension and stimulus that I could get within this movement. And obviously it's front raises, right? It's not like a crazy movement like squats or bench or whatever, but nonetheless, I'm still the level of intensity and heart that I am pushing and driving within this set, it's evident, right? Or else I wouldn't be making, these faces and just, because like realistically, we're not in the gym to fake our intensity and just make faces for no reason, right? As I mentioned, it is a representation of your individual way of expressing your heart and soul within your training. And so this leads me to a quote that, I essentially just came up with on the fly in making this presentation. To judge another's projection of their soul is to lack security and conviction within your own projection of the soul. So if you look at somebody within the gym and you start judging them in terms of like, oh, like, why are they making those weird faces? Why are they making these noises within their training? Why are they doing that exercise? Right? Why are you judging? Why should anyone care about how they look or just their overall training methodology if it's coming from a place of pure heart and genuine desire to achieve the whatever milestones that they are striving for within their endeavors, let alone caring when others feel the need to criticize your unique style of training? Because when you train from an authentic foundation, without a care of how others acknowledge your training methodologies, man, intensity and a willingness to push through mental and physical discomfort will naturally take care of itself, right? If you guys saw the video on man's journey to self-mastery, when you nail down the spiritual, the mental, and the physical, it all comes downhill. And it's the same thing within your training. Once you nail that authentic foundation by which you train by, it just becomes effortless to push through that mental and physical discomfort. And dude, I thought this was extremely funny, man. The lunk alarm, misalignment, right? An example of misalignment is the lunk alarm at Planet Fitness. Because look at this. It defines a lunk as somebody who grunts, drops weight, or judges. But clearly here, I literally realized, I was like, bro, Ricky is slamming his weights, wearing a bodybuilding tank top and drinking out of a gallon water jug. The Planet Fitness is literally judging this guy because he's wearing a bodybuilding tank top and he's drinking water out of a gallon, right? Like, bro, what? So you see, when you judge people for the way they train, that maybe that's Ricky's style of training, right? Obviously, it's not to say you be obnoxious about it and purposely try to get on people's nerves, but if you are not able to walk into the gym and just have confidence within your own style of training and just project it in an authentic manner by which it just feels right to you, you're sacrificing so many gains, bro. You're literally sacrificing the physical and the mental gains exponentially when you choose to operate from an inauthentic foundation and instead opt to follow, the science-based approach in terms of like, oh, I gotta do it this way. It's gotta be this, restrictive, limited style of training that I have to do where I can't train however I want. Right? If you love doing supersets, if you love doing drop sets, if you love doing compound movements, however you want to train in that way, because the way in which you train, as long as you have belief and conviction within what you are doing, that's all you need to grow. The science, none of that matters until, probably just further on within your journey when the smallest tiny details begin to matter. An authentic foundation and base, that is all you need to really begin to align yourself within your training, man. And of course, I gotta shout out Mike Menser again, man. Absolute G. And this quote right here perfectly encompasses the spirituality of training. What the soul demands, the body becomes. I'm going to say that again. What the soul demands, the body becomes. Right? Achieving all of those physical outcomes that we are striving for, hypertrophy, strength, mobility, endurance, whatever it might be, it can only come when the soul demands that of you. Right? For something to happen externally, it must first happen internally, within the very depths of your being, within your soul. Your soul has to bring forth the ability for that thing to materialize and thus be representative within your body. And once again, the results speak for themselves. I mean, look at Menser's physique, man. And even beyond the physique, he pioneered his unique style of training that many resonate with to this day via heavy duty and the low volume, high intensity training. Or I'm sure everybody's heard about Menser's approach. And truly, he is honestly, the perfect representation of what it means to train from an authentic spiritual foundation, because he was able to go against the grain and adopt this style of training that was truly, unique and obscure during that time period of just, high volume, bunch of reps, just pumping the weight, right? That is the beauty of spirituality within training, man. And so that, boys, wraps it up in terms of aligning yourself across the mind, body, and soul within your physical training, man. Just to recap, we already knew the body pertains to the physical outcomes we are seeking to extract as a result of the time and energy we invest within our training. With the soul, serves as the potent energy source required to drive that maximum intensity and heart within every aspect of your training, from the warm up to the last rep of that given session. And of course, finally, the mind serves as the bridge between soul and body within any regard, of course, within training as well, perfectly highlighting how the results you experience within your training, those physical outcomes, are truly a reflection of the spiritual and mental state you drive within every single session you hit. And so, boys, lean into your own modalities to ensure you give 100% of your being and thus project your soul in authenticity within your training. Reframe the resistance and intention by which you push your muscles as more of a mental game than purely a physical one. And I'm telling you guys, if you begin to align within your training in this manner, there is absolutely zero reason why, one, you won't achieve physical prowess across hypertrophy, strength, mobility, endurance, whatever you are striving to achieve within the gym. And of course, number two, man, get into the best shape of your life and thus begin stepping into your 2.0, your higher self, because within 2.0, man, fitness is the gateway. It is non-negotiable, right? In order for you to purely just project yourself in such an authentic spiritual manner, your body needs to be representative of that. And thus taking your body and pushing it to its natural limit, seeking to discover what your body is truly capable of. It is easily one of the most worthwhile, fulfilling endeavors that a man can experience within this lifetime. And it's why, aligning yourself across mind, body, your heart / your soul within your training and just within any aspect of life, man, it is truly the formula, the only formula for a degree of authentic success that just fills you wholeheartedly. It fills every single part of your being. Pause. But that's it, boys. Achieving alignment within your physical training, man. Hope y'all got value. Like, comment, feedback, always appreciated. Just carry this, carry the value and knowledge provided within this presentation, within your training, man, in terms of realizing it is so much more than just the physical, but also the mental and the spiritual, man. And I'm telling you guys, if you do that, you will just naturally walk into not only the best shape of your life, but your 2.0, that version of you that, possesses every trait, every characteristic, everything in this life that you wholeheartedly desire, because it is simply just waiting to be activated from here, activated from within, baby. But see y'all, boys, in the next one. Absolute blast making this one. So I hope y'all guys enjoyed. But hey, see y'all in the next one.